I told you we would talk about how to fix depression and anxiety naturally. With us again is Kris Vaughan, clinical herbalist and integrative nutrition coach. Great to have you on again, Kris.
Thank you so much. I always love to come here. It's fun.
You always give us encouragement on how to fix ourselves naturally, which is, you know, there's always something going wrong with the human organism, if you will. So depression and anxiety is kind of big in our world. If you're not depressed, you're anxious, it seems like.
Well, it's very big, and many people have anxiety or depression in some degree. And, you know, you can look at someone and they seem like they've got it all together, and you don't really realize that underneath they're dealing with one or both of these issues. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really prevalent.
So a lot of people on TV are always seeing all kinds of drugs people can take, but then there's wonderful side effects, you know, heart attack, stroke, whatever, terrible side effects that I think I'd probably rather be depressed or anxious. So what do you see in terms of maybe what's the difference? Is there a difference between these?
There is a difference between anxiety and depression, and they feel very different in the body. So anxiety really stems from our worry and our fear of the future and our ability to really cope or to control what is going to happen in our future. Okay, and so then depression is really more stemming from regrets of the past that then make us feel paralyzed going into the future, like we're not good enough because we couldn't do something in the past, maybe we can't do that in the future. So there are two very different dynamics in the two disorders.
That is the most fascinating explanation I've ever heard, and it makes it easy to remember and very, very common sense. You can see that's true.
And so when you kind of know where those feelings come from, then we can look at our life and go, when was the first time that I felt this and what was happening?
This sounds like psychological issues to fix it, but no.
Well, you know, there's, in a holistic view of looking at anxiety and depression, you're going to look at a lot of things. So you're going to look at your lifestyle, you're going to look at past experiences, you're going to look at hormonal issues or nutrient issues. Maybe you're on a medication. There's a lot of medications that one of the major side effects is anxiety and depression. So if you're on medications, first I say check with your doctor and see, is there another alternative for you?
Okay, you know, so it
to that particular medication.
Physical. Can be physical from like drugs, or let's say your own body is out of balance.
Correct.
And that can be it too.
Right. So hormonal issues are a big one, and so I always say, you know, first thing you want to get a few things checked. Okay. You want to have your cortisol levels checked. The cortisol is what is our fight or flight kind of hormone. Comes from the adrenal glands, and so that causes a lot of anxiety when we're stuck in that fight or flight mode. Serotonin is another issue that leads more to depression. Serotonin is our feel-good chemical. So when we're missing that feel-good chemical, we're going to have a depression. Thyroid, if thyroid is off one way or the other, we will have anxiety or depression. So those are really simple things to have checked.
Nice. And now, are those blood tests or something, Kris?
Okay. Yep, blood tests. Some doctors will even do like a saliva test to check your cortisol. So, you know, it's really easy to have that done. And then you want to look at some nutrient deficiencies. So, you know, vitamin D is a big one. If we don't have enough vitamin D, and that's a very simple blood test as well, we'll have anxiety and depression. If we're not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids in our diet, you know, if we're eating a diet that is what I call dead food, so, you know, packaged, processed, fast food without any real nutrients.
That's about 90% of us.
Right, right.
I know more are trying to eat fresh and, you know, nutrient oriented, but boy, we have such busy lives, we just grab something and eat it and it tastes good and then off we go and we don't realize we're getting nothing from it.
Right.
It's over-processed or whatever. So how about the lifestyle?
So lifestyle, it makes a big difference in how we're living and the way that we're choosing to live. So, you know, many of us live on overwhelm. Okay, we live lives that are so busy, so overscheduled, that we really have no time to stop and slow down and focus on really what is important to us in our soul, right? Okay, the other factor could be that maybe you're in toxic relationships, whether that's a marriage relationship or a familial relationship, you know, siblings, that kind of thing, parents. There are some relationships that as much as we love the person, they're just toxic for us, and they bring us no good, right?
Yes, those, and no matter how much you try, it just,
right.
You know. And so can, if you're in a lifestyle imbalance situation, overwhelmed, going too fast, maybe, you know, more tension in a relationship than you should have, does that cause physical imbalance things too?
It does, because anytime that we put stress on the body, okay, whether that's physical or emotional stress, the body goes into a very specific stress pattern. Physiological things happen. And the body's really good at recovering from that if we allow it to happen, but if we're continuing to be in this lifestyle of stress, our body can never recover. So then we have physical ailments that come up because of the long-term stress. Anxiety and depression is one of them.
We're pretty much connected physically, mentally, emotionally, aren't we?
Absolutely.
In terms of what affects the other one way, you know, backwards, forwards.
Right.
Whatever it happens.
Right.
So what do we do?
Okay.
Besides the tests, which are very
Besides
good.
the tests. So those, you know, that's kind of like number one.
And assessing your lifestyle.
And assessing your lifestyle, assessing how you eat. You know, so when you've done all of those things and you know that you're taking the actions on those areas where you're deficient, the other thing that you can do are herbs. Herbs are fabulous. I'm a clinical herbalist, so I work. That's, you know, my number one thing that I will go to. And there are different types of herbs for these conditions. So we have a classification of herbs called nervines, which calm the nervous system down and help us to recover. And then we have a classification of herbs called adaptogens, which help our body to endure stress, have more stamina, reduce that stress response in the body, and help us to recover from it more quickly.
Because, you know, sometimes there are stresses and they may come at certain times that you just can't, you have to deal with.
Right.
There's no way you can just say, I'm not going to do that.
If any of us could ever live a completely stress-free life, if I knew how to do that, I'd be a millionaire, right?
It's like the Garden of,
it's not
where
gonna
was it,
happen.
Eden?
Right. It's just not going to happen. We just live in a world where there are stressors. And stress can be good. It can be motivating. But then we have bad stress, too. So how do we navigate between those two? Right.
Right. And so can people research these on their own? I mean, obviously you're a clinical herbalist, so you've got these things under your belt, you know what to do, and also an integrative nutrition coach. So do you set up things for people, like look at their life and then?
Absolutely. We go through a whole coaching process where we look at what are they eating, what is their lifestyle, what are some strategies that we can build together, and then if I need to add in some herbals or nutritional supplements, then we can do that. But the very first thing we look at is their lifestyle, their nutrition, their movement, so exercise, physical activity.
Because that releases a chemical that makes you happy.
That's right. And it also helps to take all the excess hormones that are overactive in the body and use them or move them. Okay. So exercise really does amazing things in the body. So it's really important that every day we're moving, even just a little bit. Just get out and go for a walk. You know.
Get a dog. I say my dog saved my life. Rain, snow, sleet, hail. I'm like the post office. I have to walk my dog.
That's right.
And I thought, this dog is saving my life.
That's right.
You know, and in some way that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
You know, you help each other out. Well, it's an interesting thing trying to keep the human body going. You know, that's for sure. But it's certainly worth it when you do. You know, life is great. And if you can just find out what these things are, you can get things going again.
Right.
So again, we've got it. Anxiety and depression, no more. You know, without drugs, really.
Right. There are options to those pharmaceuticals. Now, sometimes they're needed, and I'm not going to say, you know, never, but a lot of times we can avoid them by really taking a look at the deeper issues, the root causes of the anxiety and depression, rather than just trying to mask it.
That's what I would say, just cover it up, but it's going to be there anyway. Your
That's
body's still going to be feeling it, I think, in some way.
Right.
So, Kris Vaughan, you always are a fount of knowledge.
Thank you.
And also encouragement. I always get encouragement when we talk to you about how to fix things, you know, without going on to some of those crazy things that you could have stroke, heart attack, mental illness, whatever. Kris Vaughan, clinical herbalist, integrative nutrition coach. Information on the screen. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Don't go away. When we come back, John F. Kennedy, an icon in the century and probably forever. We're going to find out what made him so memorable. We'll be right back.
Crazy what I'm about to say.